The Catholics of Oz is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to episode 50 of The Catholics of Oz. The Catholics of Oz is a show where we discuss faith, culture, and what's been happening from an Aussie perspective. Whether it's synods or science, apostolates and apps, providence or productivity, you can hear it right now on The Catholics of Oz. Hello, welcome to episode 50 of The Catholics of Oz. My name is Lindsay Sant, your host for the show. Not the only host though, because with me today is my fresh out of lockdown sister, Caroline Knight. Caroline, how you going?
I am good and feeling fresh.
Yeah, I don't know if fresh is the right word for us right now, but we'll talk about that.
Lockdown tired, aren't we?
Just a little bit, yeah. We'll talk about that because people are probably wondering why we're talking about lockdown again.
Yes, again.
Bring that up soon enough. Now, I have a bone to pick with you and with Lino because Lino is not here for this episode.
I know.
So tell me, do you guys have some kind of my last conspiracy theory was that you two had a fight or something that I didn't know about. Now I'm wondering if you've just got some kind of like shift or roster thing worked out that I don't know about.
We just want to kind of annoy you a bit and say at the last minute that one of us can't go on the podcast. So, I know. This time it was Lino's turn.
So Lino can't make it today. I've been promising the people who are listening, our lovely listening community that we'd all be together soon, and we can't give the people what they want. Come on.
Look, it wasn't my fault, okay? This time it wasn't my fault.
What kind of 2-bit podcast is this when we can't even get the hosts together?
I'm here. I showed up.
You turned up. That's all right.
It was my husband's fault last podcast. It wasn't mine.
Yeah. Well, actually, by turning up, you saved everyone from having to listen to a solo episode with me, so that's good. Doing everyone a favor.
You're welcome, people.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, Caroline, though, especially after this week, which we'll talk about in a moment. So before we do, we just want to remind all of you who are listening to like The Catholics of Oz on SQPN's Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. And also don't forget to like on Twitter as well, where you can find us at SQPN. If you're listening on to The Catholics of Oz, you can subscribe. I should try that again. If you're a new listener to The Catholics of Oz, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast player. And don't forget that SQPN also hosts The Catholics of Oz on YouTube, so you can subscribe there. Don't forget to hit the bell to get notifications of new episodes when they're released. And also, if you have an Amazon or a Google device, and I have to be careful how I say it because I don't want to set mine off by accident because I didn't put it on silent again. I can't. I'm not telling you. Just, hey, lady, that's all I'm going to say. Anyway, you can say, hey, lady, play the Catholics of Oz podcast, and it works. And again, I've always wanted to try and do a live demonstration, but I know it will fail when we're doing our recording.
Yes.
It'll play Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. I think she likes that show better anyway.
Which is fine, yes.
Yeah, she's a bit
show.
biased towards that show. Yeah. Don't forget also to leave us positive, lovely, positive 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app so that we can meet new people. As always, meeting new people, finding new people who will listen and join in the conversation with us is what we're all about. And that's what we want to do, especially in these times. So, Caroline, we decided, executive decision, that we would have a casual episode. So anyone who was listening last year would know that we had a raft of casual episodes.
Yes, we did.
And we decided to do that as a response to being in, I don't know, 40 years of lockdown. Of Lent.
I felt like it.
Yeah. Anyway, for being in lockdown for such a prolonged period of time, we had a lot on our minds during that time, and we were all looking after ourselves and our families and working extra hard at home.
Schooling and working and carrying on, yes.
Yeah, so we do always pick topics to talk about, but we decided not to be so formal about the way we talk about them. So, Caroline, let's talk about it. We had 5 days of lockdown. Now, at the time of this is at the time of recording. It finished on Wednesday that just passed. This would be about a week and a half ago.
It was Ash Wednesday.
Roughly. It was Ash Wednesday. I should mention it was on Ash Wednesday. Yeah. So, Caroline, why did we go into lockdown again, and what happened?
Oh, here we go. So, our hotel quarantining system, were some. Do you want me to recant the whole thing? I know it off by heart because they tell us every day on the news.
Give us the Spark Notes version, yeah.
So, one guest who came back from overseas unfortunately had the UK variant of the COVID-19 virus, of the disease, and I think he's still in ICU. I'm not sure, but he did actually
unfortunately,
end up getting pretty unwell.
if it's him. I know that there is one person who's in intensive care at the moment. So on a serious note, obviously we're very concerned for this person.
It's not a trivial thing. They're not numbers. They are people. But unfortunately, this guest apparently had a nebulizer, not a neuralizer, as I saw someone write on Twitter.
That sounds like a deadly device from Star Trek or something.
Well, almost.
Get him with the neuralizer.
Yes. But unfortunately, the nebulizer managed to spread the virus out into the corridor or something, and the ventilation system wasn't very good. So some workers at the quarantine hotel and some other guests became ill with the virus, and so it started spreading around and more quickly than they could handle and contact trace. To find out who may have had the virus or who may have spread it in the community. So the Victorian government, in their wisdom, decided that we need to have a 5-day stage 4 lockdown, which meant only the 4 reasons again for going outside of your home, which was it work if you have to, food
shopping,
caring,
medical appointments,
exercise, something like that. Is that right?
Exercise, yeah.
Oh, yeah, medical appointments. Anyway, it's like 4.3 reasons, sort of.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So basically the same as last year, except for the 9 p.m. curfew.
With no 9 p.m. curfew. Wasn't it 8 p.m. to start with?
Oh, maybe. Oh, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. Curfew was weird. I'm sorry, but that was weird.
Strange.
I don't think we needed that. But anyway, they didn't dare go with curfew again because that would have been very unpopular.
Oh, boy.
But anyway, so that was kind of just to give the contact tracing team a bit of time to kind of get a grip. Yeah, so we were all forced into a lockdown. Now, to me, this was fairly contained, so I'm not sure if the whole of Victoria really needed to go into lockdown, but anyway, that's okay. It's just my opinion. So we spent from, when was it? Friday last week?
Yeah, no, from Saturday.
So
Friday was the announcement. Yeah,
Friday was the announcement. And to Ash Wednesday, conveniently, thank you very much, because we weren't able to go to any Ash Wednesday services because they'd closed all the churches, everything was stopped. Shops were closed, everything was closed. So we all stayed home. The kids were home. I was working from home. Thank God I could work from home and you could work from home. But
remote learning was back on.
Yeah. So we were all, I think, depressed for 5 days because we were in lockdown.
Again.
Which it kind of puts I don't know. I just felt really, I think it actually did make me feel quite depressed this time because I was like, oh no, I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
And just for a few cases that are fairly contained. Although having said that, our wastewater testing at the moment is finding COVID fragments in areas where they don't have confirmed cases. So there may be something popping up later on. Who knows?
Yeah,
hopefully
but I think it was frustrating that we had to go back in, and I think a lot of people there's a silver lining in one sense, but from the not so happy side about this, I think a lot of people, and I certainly felt this. I was feeling sort of flashbacks to last year's lockdowns and how I'm glad it kept us safe. We as our premier has been saying over and over again. I think this is kind of the credit that he's using to justify what's happened this time. Yeah. He was saying, we're the only place in the world that defeated a second wave and managed to get back to normal. So he's clearly using that as part of his strategy to prevent what he believed and what his health team believed would have been a potential third wave. Yeah. Because I think some of the uncertainty, there were a couple of things. The list of people that needed to be contact traced grew.
It was huge.
Exponentially. Yeah.
So thousands. We ended up,
so we were, was it 3,000 plus, I think?
It was a lot of people.
Getting quite hefty. And we've actually got, at time recording, we've got about 3,000 or so people still in quarantine until it'll be 2 days. 2 days before this podcast comes out. So if you're listening 2 days ago, that would have been their 14 days.
The funny thing about this virus, this variant, and they have reason for it, to be honest, because what seems to be happening is that people are leaving quarantine. They've done 14 days and then they're getting the virus.
Yes, that was my
out.
next point. Yes.
Yeah. So it might be quite contagious, but it's not showing up for more than 14 days.
Yes. If I was the Premier, I'd be very jittery about that too. Because can you imagine that you've done all the right things from what from what we've been doing already, but after 14 days, people turn up positive. And the other thing is these people have been around. Like I mean, in some ways, a bit comical seeing all the places they've been to. Like there was one guy who'd gone to 2 different golf stores, and like people have gone to cake shops and cafes, and some people living the high life in some of the places they're going to, and jaunting around from cafe to cafe, and but the thing is, like, I mean, these people, we will still have indoor mask wearing, which mitigates a lot of the risk. However, you don't know what this variant is capable of doing. So, especially being able to evade 14 days of detection through, because the thing is, one of the from that nebulizer story you were talking about, it was a hotel quarantine staff member, a worker, who was positive, even though they'd had no contact with, with the person who was ill,
with full PPE.
And, that's right. And these people get tested every day.
Yeah,
and even after even though being tested every day, they end up being positive later on. And so it was this was a very tricky variant of the virus that they've been dealing with. Yeah,
because that poor worker, he was sick, and then he went to a function.
Yes,
where now a lot of cases have come from. Like he spread it, because at that time we were allowed to wear masks. We didn't have to wear masks indoors at functions, like if you're sitting down at a cafe, which is still the case now, like if you go and sit down in a cafe. So they had a function, and a few people have got sick from there. And actually we had 3 cases come up yesterday, which were people, I think there was 2 from that function.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But luckily they'd already been quarantining. So some of these people have already done a quarantine in the hotel and have been told to quarantine again. So it's not 14 days, it's 28 days. So
poor things,
Poor things, it's horrible.
That's terrible, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 5 days. These guys are going for, a whole month, and they're not even allowed to go out at all.
Yeah. I did mention a silver lining from all this, and I did see...
Yes, what is it?
Here, I'll give you one, On Twitter and Facebook, one thing I did see was a lot of people, a lot of Victorians talking, saying, we've done this before, we can do it again. A lot of people were talking about the resilience of Victorians, and I know even in resilience, there's our weakness as well. There's you talk about how it's, being depressed about it. I know I wasn't happy about being in lockdown. I'd gotten into the rhythm of work for the year. It has been been back at work for 2 weeks, and then suddenly that rhythm is disrupted by this. And even though, I get to stay at home, I get to work from home. That the thing is, it's not as simple as that, if that makes sense. But the silver lining is that the overwhelming majority of people anyway did the right thing, and now we don't have to have an extension of this lockdown. They called it a circuit breaker. There were documents showing that this lockdown could have extended to a full 14 days if it needed to be. They were ready to pull that trigger.
I was expecting that, to be honest.
We were thinking it. A lot of people were thinking it, but it didn't have to be, because we did the right thing and the numbers went down. We got back to donuts, which is good. Like there's those zeros. And
we got that today. But I mean, it's a credit to Victorians, because like I have to say, we're pretty obedient. So if people say, okay, now you have to wear masks, people are wearing masks. There's no complaint. Some people complain, and you get your protests and things that people don't want to be.
We're in summer. It's not nice. It's not comfortable to wear a mask.
No, it's actually really uncomfortable. And my workplace, because currently 50% people office workers are allowed back into the office. And my workplace, while there's mask wearing indoors, they're actually saying, well, if you're too uncomfortable, just work from home for now. While you have to wear masks indoors, because it's just, you wear glasses, you're sitting at a computer for 8 hours. It's like pretty uncomfortable. So, but anyway, thank goodness for, everybody kind of pulling together and, really not wanting this to get bad.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's a good thing. I think that it's, I don't know. So the obedient, it's true. Like we followed the law. It's just it's just common sense doing the right thing. So stay in your lockdown for 5 days. It means that there's totally minimize the risk of this variant becoming a third wave, which there were jitters about. And imagine, like, if I don't know if I think about it, but if we'd been in a third wave or a potential one, the words were that the phrase being used was we would have to stay in lockdown until the vaccine was able to be rolled out. That would be,
and they're expecting what, end of October?
But yeah, so a full national rollout by then, I think. So starting next week with people who are vulnerable, frontline workers, so all the people who need it the most at the moment. They're getting the USA's Pfizer vaccine.
The Pfizer, yes.
A few doses of that, and then
the good one. I mean, it's the curious one with the mRNA, how it works. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode on that actually. Yeah, like when we're not doing a casual episode, we'll actually do our research and we'll talk about it. I think it's a good idea. Yeah,
but it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Your science segment is writing itself. That's good. Yeah, and then the Astrazeneca vaccine, which is the one that the rest of us will receive when it's when it's ready to be rolled out to us.
And that's just the viral, attenuated virus one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get 2 jabs of that. It's supposed to be 12 weeks apart to get that 90% effectiveness.
Yeah.
Yay.
And now they're saying, though. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And then we have to get the flu shot either side of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And my son Damien, is the 12-year-old, he's getting 2 vaccinations this year through school as well. So great. He's going to love that. Yeah. Although he can't get the AstraZeneca. He's too young. I think right now it's only been approved for 18 to 65. Yeah.
Or
so
16,
he's probably happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, because the children don't, for some reason, they're able to cope with it quite well and they don't actually spread it. I think that's what the rationale is. So that'll be interesting. Hey, we'll see how we go with that. I don't know. We're going to have very sore arms.
Yes, that's right. Sore arms. Think of our arms. That's it. Yeah. So, and we say all this because we want to share our experience, because we know a lot of you who are listening in different parts of the world as well are in different circumstances. Some of this will be very familiar to you as well. I know that, for example, that a lot of places in the United States, I was listening to some of the podcasts on SQPN and they were joking about being in a very long Lent. Did Lent in 2020 actually stop? Is it still going? They've gone from one Lent to another. So we know that, that there are different kinds of struggles around the world. And so we say this, we talk about all of this in a lighthearted kind of way, just to tell you that we're thinking about you, and we're all doing this together. And it's a worldwide fight. It's not a Victorian fight. And Victoria is just one of the places that are in that same battle as everyone else to finally beat this pandemic.
Yes, I hope we get on top of it, because, I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to getting back to some kind of normal.
Yeah, in the words of our chief health officer, he tweeted last year a picture of his coffee mug, and it just said "Pandemics suck." Yeah, and I think that sums it up.
Even though it's keeping him in a job, but yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
ironically,
but not sure it's the job he wanted though. I wonder how much sleep any of that team gets. They must, especially last year. I don't think they slept at all.
You can tell Brett Sutton by how tired he is by the length
of
his beard.
Yeah, it's the beard.
I noticed during the 5-day lockdown when he'd appear in the press conferences that it came back.
It was back, baby. Yep.
It was back. And, they're having late nights and, they work so hard deciding what to do. And I think they do need to take into account some kind of politics too, because they can't just say, okay, lockdown for 14 days. No, because people are not going to like it. So they've got to think, what's the best efficient way that we can handle this, and people are going to be okay with it.
Yeah. I wonder if Archbishop Peter Comensoli, our Archbishop here in Melbourne, I wonder if he started growing. I haven't seen a picture of him lately, actually, because I don't know if he kept his COVID beard and then got rid of it. Yes. And then if it's grown back in the last 5 days, we'll have to pose that very important question to him. I'm sure that's what's on his mind right now.
We'll tweet him because he'll got a beard.
I'll have to tweet that to him, yeah. Not these guys again.
I know. Might be sick of us by now.
All right, so let's anyway. As I always say in these episodes, let's give the people some content now, shall we? So that's what's happening in our lives. Now, Caroline, I didn't realize this, and I'm a little bit embarrassed about it until a colleague told me in my office on Thursday the other day when we came back. So it was the day after Ash Wednesday. We came back to school, and he told me he said, "Did you know that the church is celebrating 200 years of Catholic education this year?" And I said, "Really?" Not as in has it been that long, because I'm sure it has.
Feels that long? No.
Yeah, it feels that long.
You being a teacher.
But yeah, I had no idea. And he said, "Oh, they're doing the launch today."
Is that in Australia? 200 years.
Yeah, 200 years of Catholic schools in Australia, of there being a Catholic school, well, of Catholic school since the first one opened, and then right to the development of a Catholic school system that we have right now. So the Catholic school system in Australia is quite unique in the sense that it's a strong system that is partly government funded, which is one of the reasons that that keeps us going. So we have government money to keep the schools going. We're not necessarily beholden to the government in terms of what we can and can't say, but there are certainly reporting aspects that have to be done because of that. But because of it, we have that it was described the Catholic education system is the largest Catholic education system in Australia outside of the government system. So of all the systems that exist, because you've got independent ones, you've got all these other ones, but
other faiths,
yeah. So it's the largest system outside the government system. It's so there are hundreds of we'll be close. I should have checked what the number was, but there'd be, if you think of all the Catholic primary schools and high schools around Australia, that's a lot.
There are a lot, actually.
Yeah, I should have looked up what the number was, but let's just go with a lot. Okay, and then someone can correct me on that later. Yeah, many. More than a few.
You see them everywhere. There you go.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's true. If you do drive around, you'll see quite a few.
In the suburbs, you do see them everywhere.
Yeah. So I thought I might say a couple of things about it. The launch was so they used a pre-recorded video for the launch, and they played it 2 times on Thursday last week. So there was a morning launch and there was an afternoon launch, and the video was about 15 minutes long. Now it featured, I'm going to say a friend of the show because we've had him on the show before, Father Rob Gallia, who I mentioned in a last episode, Father Rob Gallia. So he has composed a song that's used as the official song for this year's celebration.
I think I saw that briefly
you
on
might have,
Twitter yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, so it's called Faith in the Future, and he sings it with some school students from a Catholic primary school, I think from a high school as well, actually, from memory. Yeah, and it's a beautiful song, a great summary of where Catholic schools have been and where they're going. And we discussed at school, I was saying to my colleague, I said, we need to use this song if we can. We're trying to organize it if it's possible, but we need to use this song at every mass that we have this year at our, for our students. So plans are afoot to make that happen. So we want to bring that celebration to our students and to our staff as well. So I think it's a there's a powerful legacy in Catholic schools, and they do acknowledge the bad things that have happened in this as well. So I don't want to sugarcoat that bad things didn't happen in Catholic schools, but the overall story is one of success, and there are a lot of things to celebrate. So I thought I might just throw some details at you about Catholic schools. There's a website which I'll put in our show notes, but it's 200years.catholic.edu.au. And it's basically a summary of Catholic history, Catholic Church history in Australia and the schools. So the first Catholic school opened in 1820. So that's the first thing. There's a timeline you can look at. I won't go through the whole timeline. I'm actually just going to only read the first entry. I don't want to go through every single part of it. It's like, when people come back from holidays and they show you a slideshow and they've got 1,000 pictures.
Like,
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, right. And here's a flower that I saw.
Awesome.
And that's a rock. Yeah,
you have to go, oh, wow, that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, because this rock changes color in the rain.
When I wet it, it turns into a rainbow.
Anyway, only the first thing. So the first Catholic school opened in October 1820 in Australia. It was founded by Irish Catholic priest John Terry. So he's a well-known historical figure in the history of the Catholic Church in Australia. The school, which Catholic historians believe was in Hunter Street, Parramatta, taught 31 students, 7 of whom were Protestants. An Irish Catholic convict sent to the colony ran it for 3 years. This school was transferred to... Sorry, you know what? I just got that wrong. An Irish Catholic convict sent to the colony, he was convicted for embezzlement, named George Marley, opened the school for Father Terry and ran it for 3 years. This school was transferred to the site of the present Parramatta Marist School Junior in 1837. Parramatta Marist High School, now located in Westmead, New South Wales, traces its origins back to this first school. It seems at least 2 other Catholic schools were established in New South Wales before the school opened by George Marley. One school is thought to have opened between 1803 and in 1806. The second early in 1817. However, both schools were closed by 1818. So there are photos. There's actually a photo of the old Parramatta classroom from the 1900s, and people can see all of that. the bishops wrote a letter, so a pastoral letter to celebrate this this centenary as well. And there's only one section I want to take an excerpt from, and it's basically because the whole letter from my reading, it goes through the history of Catholic schools. Yay, let's celebrate this. Here's what's happened. But they also talk about the now. You know, we can't just say, hey, here's a success story. You know, mission accomplished, don't do anything. They then go on to talk about where to from here. So it says, rather than resting on our laurels, however, the bishops recognize that every generation must examine critically the current performance of its institutions, their relationships to families, parishes, and the wider community. And I've just lost my spot. Whoops. Sorry. And the wider, scrolling on a Mac. And the wider, here we go. And the wider mission of the church. I have to learn how to mouse scroll again. So the sense of identity among leaders and staff, and whether we are doing our best by our young people. Every generation must also make again the public case for faith schools, for choice in education, and for funding of Catholic schools in just terms. On this anniversary, we also want to acknowledge the quality and commitment of our education leaders and school staff today. We look forward to the Church in Australia recommitting herself to the great adventure of Catholic education in the Plenary Council, which we've talked about, by the way, in 2021 and 22, and look to you all to give a lead in the years that follow. Of course, the education scene in Australia has changed dramatically since Father Terry's day. Catholic schools continue to grow, but not necessarily in enrolments of Catholic children. Financial stress and other factors have led some Catholic families to look elsewhere for schooling. Meanwhile, many other than Catholic families entrust their children to our schools. Even our Catholic students now often have little connection with the church outside of school. Secularization continues apace in our culture, and there was a considerable disillusionment with the church, with church institutions resulting from the sexual abuse crisis. Thus, while our schools continue to embrace their traditional responsibility for religious and other education, they now have a different mix of students and less support for their specifically religious mission from outside the school than they had in the past. So I won't read any more than that. Now, I don't see that as a negative necessarily. I'm actually glad the bishops have said it, because it's good to see bishops acknowledging the context we're in. And it's really important, because you can't pretend that every student that comes into your classroom, especially I'm a religious education teacher, I'm very passionate about it. You can't assume that they're all ready to receive religious education. So religious education needs to meet them where they're coming from. And you can't just expect that every student, so out of 25 students in a classroom, that every single one of them is the same. So you need to provide an education, a religious education that meets them where they're at. So last year, for example, I at a Year 12 core RE class. So our Year 12s are our senior students. They're 17 and 18-year-olds. By that point, they've kind of made up their decisions. They started to make a choice about where they stand on faith. And I was running a class prayer session with them. So it was a 20-minute prayer session, getting them involved, saying, hey, I want you to read this prayer, read that prayer. And I know that there were a handful of committed Catholics in that class. There were a handful of undecided. There were a handful that were convinced atheists as well. I make them welcome my class. I love them. They're my students. And so knowing who my audience was, I would start when I do a prayer, I'd say things like, so is anyone in this room allergic to prayer? So I start like that. Is anyone going to break out in hives if I do the sign of the cross? But I do it not to make fun of prayer, but I do it to break the tension. Because if I said, all right, we're going to pray now, I've lost the audience. Yeah. But if I start with a bit of humor, it shows that what I'm trying to show is that I understand where they're coming from. And I also show them that they're being invited. So, because what we say to our students, and we do this at our masses a lot as well, is we say, we know a lot of you who are sitting here, and this is paraphrasing what we say, but we always make sure to do it. We know a lot of you sitting here are not necessarily practicing, but we are better for your participation and your presence with us today, because we invite you and we celebrate this Mass together. And we will be praying for you during this Mass. So what we're trying to do is bring that sense of welcome. And what they do with that is up to them, because we can't force anyone to be Catholic. I know some people might tell me off for saying that, but that's the truth of the context. If we want to evangelize, we need to do it by invitation, not by cracking the whip and saying, get baptized now. Yeah. And even during prayer sessions in class, like the one I mentioned before, I'll say things like, don't worry, I'm not going to baptize you by stealth. I haven't got I haven't got holy water here on my desk.
Baptism.
And, your secret baptism, things like that. And again, it's not to make fun of it, because it is to invite them in and to make them feel at ease. And and if they're feeling at ease at this point, I mean, the content in the prayer session is pretty serious. It's very Catholic. It's very praying to Jesus. It's very much it's very much prayers, prayers for our world, prayers asking God to guide us, prayers to the Holy Spirit. So it's the whole idea is to ease them into being able to not accept, how do I put it? Not even to cope with, I'm trying to find the right word, but to be comfortable with that content so that they can see what it's all about. Because what we know is our students in our Catholic schools, by and large, they are definitely committed to things like justice, fairness, equality, inclusion. They are definitely committed to things like wanting to help the poor, make a difference in the world. And this pastoral letter does say there are a lot of Catholic students who are in places, or students from Catholic schools, I should say, who are in places where now, because of their Catholic education, they're trying to make positive differences in the world. We have some prominent examples of that too. Some of them stay Catholic, some of them are not Catholic, but a lot of them can go back to their Catholic education to see where they got their sense of, of love of their neighbor from. So if we can instill that, at least as a starting point, it is a faith connection, a bridge that we can make between faith and love. So that's part of the mission of what we do. I could rant about this forever, Caroline, but but what do you think? 200 years of Catholic education. You've got kids. I've got kids who are in Catholic. Well, I've got a child who's in a Catholic school. You've got two boys in Catholic schools. What do you think about Catholic education in Australia? And are there any stories about your boys? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we went through all of our school is in Catholic schools, and I think what you were saying reflects the people that we went to school with as well. Not everybody that we went to school with was practicing Catholics. In fact, probably they were in the minority. I felt like we practiced, and then if you kind of said, "Oh yeah, I do go to church on Sunday," they'd be like, "Oh really? Do you go to church on Sunday?
Why do you do that?"
Yeah.
Got a lot of that.
Yeah, but on the whole, they were good people anyway. There's still I think they still have the Catholic school has a high how do you say, like, very good education and does develop good people out of them. But for my boys, we're getting the benefits for all of those 200 years of Catholic education, because I can see what sweet kids the schools are producing, the primary schools. Like, they pray in the morning, they have the school prayer, and then they pray before meals, and they have a prayer before they leave school, and they do religion class. And the things that my boys come up with, they come and ask me all these questions. I know when they've done religion class that day, they're pretty enthusiastic about it, so obviously they're teaching them in a fun way, and so that's pretty amazing. And they instill good qualities into the children. So it encompasses everything they learn. So, they're doing all their history, their maths, their English, but their religion kind of, the faith in Jesus and everything kind of encompasses their learning, which is really sweet, I think. It's really beautiful. It gives them some, positivity, to their learning as well. It's another aspect that they kind of include in their education. It's not just, pure academic stuff, which I'm all for, pure academic stuff, but but to have all of that wrapped in faith, I think is just it just makes it more special. And I guess on a side note, I'm pretty excited because I just got newsletter this week to officially confirm that my son will be making his first reconciliation.
Yay.
Frankie, the eldest, and
Awesome.
in May or March. I was on my phone here. Where is it now? In March, actually. So
Awesome.
It'll be the end of March, and Eucharist in June. So
Brilliant.
that's pretty amazing. I'm very excited for that.
Exciting times,
it
definitely.
is. I know he's ready for it. That will be really good. So, yeah.
And it is. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, the schools, in a lot of ways, they actually facilitate the sacraments for students in a big way, and it's such an important thing. And I'm grateful that we have that possibility that because it just depends on where you are and what's happening, but at least having schools with committed sacramental coordinators,
yes,
who organize those those sacramental experiences for our kids. I mean, that's and if you can do it through school, what a blessing that is. That a Catholic school can do that. That's there's a sign, another sign of a healthy Catholic school is that sacramental life. It's so important.
Yeah, and they often have programs for children who don't attend the school who still want to make their sacraments.
That's right. Yeah,
which is great. And but it's good to see all the kids doing this together as friends, as a community. So it's just makes it a really nice celebration.
Yeah, and for the kids who are not making their sacraments, they're learning alongside the ones who are. So they get to see what it's all about.
That's it.
They're not being forced to do anything, but there's a witness to. They're being witnessed to.
That's right.
Through this sacramental preparation as well.
That's right. And there is a choice, because I actually got a form to sign. Do you want your children to participate and, receive the sacraments? And of course I ticked yes, but it's nice that there's a choice, and like parents who may not want that, or, they're not practicing Catholics or whatever, but they have the choice. They don't have to do them in order for their children to, be in the Catholic school. So.
And I like the idea of having a choice, because if my child wasn't ready to receive the sacraments yet, I would, and I wouldn't do it in some kind of forceful way.
No,
like, no, you're not ready. Nothing like that. But it's just, I think there's more, there's more learning he needs to do, or there's more experience he needs to have, or something, something along those lines. Because I wouldn't want my kids to necessarily receive the sacraments without a basic understanding of what they are. Like, they don't have to have an in-depth theological understanding of, no. If I throw out words like anamnesis and all these, whatever.
I've never heard that word in my life.
That's that is the recalling the memory, the living memory of Jesus. What is it? His Last Supper and crucifixion at communion, which we relive, which we participate in, the anamnesis. There you go.
Aside teaching. Thank you.
And I can throw the laying of hands anyway, the laying of hands to the Holy Spirit. Yep, I'm just being a nerd. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is they don't need to know those terms at I'm going to get in trouble for that, because I think I got that wrong. Anyway, but they don't need to. I'll correct that next time. But they don't need to know that. But what they need to know is things like you're receiving Jesus. This is a moment of grace. Jesus is working in you, working with you, and loving you as you receive these sacraments. You're being restored and forgiven. The things that they know that they're participating in what they're doing. Yeah, and I think it's a great grace, like I said, that our Catholic schools can provide that. Just to finish off this little bit, the bishops they have a little checklist here. Of saying what's required for Catholic schools in their continuation. So it says much more is required, however, for a genuinely Catholic school, that a preponderance of students from Catholic families or of staff who are devout. It is essential that leaders and staff understand and are solidly committed to the Catholic identity of the school. Activities of pre-evangelization, primary proclamation, catechesis, and spiritual formation seek to ensure our young people have a personal encounter with Christ, developing an enduring relationship with God and the Church, and have a genuine apprenticeship in the Christian life. Screen froze. Anyway, the religious education curriculum is sound, attractive, and professionally delivered, helping students to integrate faith, culture, and life. Other disciplines also consider the Catholic Christian dimension of their subject areas. Schools are Eucharistic communities within the parish context, where students regularly take part in Mass and reconciliation and are engaged in various forms of prayer and meditation. Schools are places that cultivate a Catholic imagination supported by Catholic visual culture. Schools are connected to their local parishes and dioceses through inviting the pastors and parents into the school, and through active collaboration with the wider Catholic community. Families and parishes support their schools in these important endeavors. And there's a whole lot of other things to read, but I think that's a pretty decent checklist of what schools can use to measure their Catholic identity and what they're doing. And if they're it's good for schools, and they do this anyway. I know from my school it's the case. We do assess, or often and periodically, what we're doing to support the mission of the church. Are we doing the mission of the church? Is it, what is the health of our Catholic identity, and what can we do to improve, to deepen, and make it more visible, make it more known to the wider school community, and more inviting as well. So there's a whole lot of things. So anyway, 200 years of Catholic school. Congratulations, Catholic schools. Yay. Here's to 200 more. May they be even better and more grace-filled than the last 200 years. Speaking of being grace-filled, we entered the season of Lent. Bit of a not starting the way, I guess, that we expected it to. What happened, Caroline? What happened on Wednesday? Not very much, I think.
Well, it was last day of 5-day lockdown for us. So if you wanted to take part in the Ash Wednesday service, it had to be online. Online,
yep.
So I think a lot of people did that, and I kind of let it slip, unfortunately. I don't know.
Well,
I had such a very busy day.
Yeah, let me interrupt you because the good news is Archbishop Peter Comensoli, he said he's told the Catholics of Victoria, well, Melbourne, I'm assuming it goes to all of Victoria as well, that this Sunday at Mass, you can receive the ashes then. So priests are going to be distributing ashes. Now, it's a different way. We're used to the tracing of the cross on the forehead, right? But this year, and this has come from the Vatican as well, but basically we're going back to the old days a little bit, and the ashes are going to be sprinkled on our heads,
which is kind of more fun.
Yeah. So the directive is that the priest says nothing, so it doesn't say, remember you are from dust and unto dust shall return, or whatever the variant might be. They simply say nothing and they sprinkle the ashes on as a symbol of the penitent season starting for that person. So you can start Lent without ashes. Lent has started. In fact, our parish priest sent a letter. Oh no, where did I see it? I think it was either a letter or one of the masses that he did online. But he was jokingly saying, your fasting begins on Wednesday, not on Sunday.
Yes, yeah. Well, I did fast on Wednesday, my version of it, which means tiny bit of breakfast, no snacks, because I love my snacks, a little bit of lunch, no snacks, and then just dinner, which I managed to do because for me, I get hungry all the time. I'm got a very high metabolism and I'm always hungry. So we managed that. And to Frankie's credit, he's given up drinking anything other than water, which, and he came up with that
He's
himself.
Better than me.
Yes. Yep. I even had a cup of tea because I really needed it. I had a very busy day Wednesday, but very active and everything. But so he's decided that no, he's not drinking anything except water, and he's dedicated to it. He's sticking to it. I even said, it's okay, you can have a little bit of milk. No, water. Okay.
Wow.
And for me, Lent is going to be a little bit harder because my husband's away for a month, so practically most of Lent. So I started my Lent on, when was it? When did he leave? For Thursday or Friday, because they were going to leave on Sunday because they're recording an album in New South Wales. So he was going to leave on Sunday, but because they were afraid that New South Wales would close their border and make them quarantine because of the outbreak, he left early. So, I actually started Lent early because it's really hard when he's not around having to do the whole thing.
I should mention a Twitter conversation that you and I were in recently, a week or two ago. So Bishop Umber, so he calls himself Bishop Down Umber on Twitter, and right now actually he changed his name to Bishop Down Ember. Okay, fair enough. And he put a poll online. What should I do for Lent? He wrote, give up memes, and 11% voted for that. Give up Twitter, 18% voted for that. He wrote, go to more meetings, 48%, or eat balut, with 23%, which I think is it's the Filipino delicacy. Actually, Lino could tell us about this.
Yes.
It's the egg that still has like a duck embryo in it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's Lino can tell us more about that.
That's a conversation for Lino. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so Archbishop Comensoli, because this was when our lockdown was announced, he just wrote lockdown as his response. And so I wrote back to him, I feel like our Lenten observance was chosen for us, which he and a few others liked. And then you wrote, didn't this happen last year? And then he responded to you, we like repeats. So.
And I was like, oh, no, we don't actually. Not lockdown repeats.
Yeah.
Be nice
good to know
if
our
we
bishops. Our Australian bishops have a sense of humour. It's good to know. And I like that they interact with the people online.
Of course.
Good on them for doing that.
No, it's good because you can have that connection. Like before, you couldn't have a real connection with the people in the, upper in the hierarchy in the church, but we can now. So it's good. Have a bit of a kid around.
And I think with Lent, it boils down to this, right? So like people, like we started in unusual circumstances. It's a bit disrupted. It's not the way we want it to go. But essentially, I mean, if we think about it, and Pope Francis, I've got a quote from him as well, and I'll share this in the show notes. But first of all, I'll start with Father Rob Gallia again. Can't stop mentioning the guy. We have to get him back on the show, I reckon. Let's invite him. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Aside from that, we watched his mass. It was live at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, but obviously I was working, it's remote teaching, so we watched it together as a family in the evening. And he went through, the gospel where Jesus says, when you fast, don't make a big deal of it like the hypocrites do. Don't have a sad face, smile, so wash your face, put oil in your hair, so our fasting is not like, oh, look, it's so hard. Look what I'm doing for God. I'm so great and I'm struggling. Please feel sorry for me. That because that's looking for earthly affirmation. But what Father Rob was on about, he was saying we want not affirmation from people, but we want a relationship with God. That's what the aim is. And that's why this season of Lent is so beautiful, because it's not about the fact that we are, enjoying a little bit less of the good things in life. It's that we're just putting things aside and refocusing our relationship with Jesus. And that's where I think this is such a grace-filled time. We know that the three elements of Lent: pray, fast, give, right? That if you remember those three words and do them, you've done Lent well. That's the key thing. It doesn't have to be some elaborate big kind of, look at me, I don't know, I'm only taking cold showers and I don't drink coffee and, and I don't go on the internet. Yeah, and I don't talk to people. I don't know,
I don't talk to people.
I'm just being a bit silly there.
Give up people for Lent. It might be good actually to have a bit of peace.
Actually, it's not a bad idea sometimes, yeah. We're a bit cranky after lockdown, aren't we?
Yeah, just
anyway,
a little. Jaded
lining.
Yeah.
But Pope Francis, on that, he said the following, the path of poverty and self-denial, fasting, concern and loving care for the poor, almsgiving or giving, and childlike dialogue with the Father, prayer, make it possible for us to live lives of sincere faith, living hope and effective charity. He said this enables the conversion and helps renew the faith. So this is it. Just pray, fast, give. Don't go crazy about Lent. Don't overdo it. If our aim, I should say, is not aligned with a better relationship with Jesus, then yeah, okay, we're doing it wrong. That's not how the Force works. It's a bit like that, isn't it? So I think we need to simplify Lent a little bit. And it really is about humbling ourselves. And when we put something aside, for example, when we put things aside, what we're saying is, God, I've got room for you. Please, I've got room for you. I want your grace. And when we say I want grace, what we're saying is, change me. Let me be, I want to change. I want to be more like you. I want people to see you in me. I want to do the mission that you have for me. And it's just recommitting to that. And we're not being asked to go crazy. Some people, when they give up coffee, they become jerks. We're not being asked to do that.
You shouldn't aim too much for something that's too difficult, because you're not going to be able to achieve it. And I guess the main thing is maybe put yourself aside a little bit and put others first. I guess that would be a good aim in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we want to do things that say, Jesus, I love you. Not proving, saying, look, notice me, I love you. It's like, but saying, I'm recommitting. I'm refocusing my love for you again. I'm renewing it. I want it to be as real as it ever has been. And that's the thing. This is the journey of our life, isn't it? It's just that constant renewal and change. I love in theology, they talk about the word divinization or theosis, if you want to be here we go. But basically what it is it's the grace of God loving us into goodness. And I'm simplifying a little bit, but this is what it is. When we talk about God's grace, and we can talk about sanctifying and actual grace, all that kind of stuff, but what we're getting at, essentially, what it boils down to, without worrying about the technical language, is allowing God to love us into goodness. And that's what Lent is all about. We show our love for God by denying a little bit for ourselves, by giving a bit more, being more generous to people around us and even people we don't know. And we pray more. We renew our commitment to prayer, whether that be through reading of, because my son, my oldest son Damien, Father Rob mentioned in his mass, he said, whether you pray for 10 minutes or whether you pray for an hour, and he was trying to say, pray for 12 minutes or pray for an hour and 15 minutes if that's what you do. And Damien said, how do people pray for an hour? He's trying to work this concept out. And I said, Damien, there are so many ways to pray. I said, look, you and I are sitting down for a half an hour mass with Father Rob. That's half an hour of prayer. Look at that. And he's like, oh, right. I said, if you sit down and read scripture for 10 to 15 minutes, there's prayer. If you talk to God for another 5-10 minutes, there's, look at this. Suddenly you've got an hour of prayer.
Even like when your children ask you questions and you're discussing it and you're talking about it, it can be prayerful as well.
It is, because God is part of that. We're relying on the grace of God to help us answer these questions.
That's
and
right.
They're listening to the grace of God working through us by hearing the answers to these questions.
Because we don't know the answers. We need to get the answers from God himself.
God is giving us a kick in the direction to help with these questions or where to find the answers. And the other thing is, and I'm getting a bit passionate about this, but the hour of prayer, the so-called hour of prayer, doesn't need to be a block.
No.
Stretch it out throughout the day. Find different times to pray.
That's a good idea.
And the good things that you do for people around you, make that your prayer as well. Do all of it. There are so many different ways to pray. You can grab an app.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
For me, I need aids because otherwise I'm so busy as a mother. So I need to put on a podcast of prayer so that will help me to pray, and I can pray with it, or an app with a rosary or something I've spoken about before that helps me to pray. So I've got somebody praying it and I'm praying it with them, so.
Yeah, listen to some Catholic music and Christian music while you're doing chores, or just take a break and sit and listen and let it. And
Kanye
let the words get some Kanye West out there. You know what? Of course it does. Of course it does. If the aim of Kanye West's music is to bring you closer to God, and look, if people want to say the musician is flawed, well, every Catholic musician is flawed. I'm sorry to say.
All of us, every single one of us.
If we don't admit that we're flawed, then I don't believe you. You know what I mean? We're all flawed and hypocrites. So, Kanye West has his issues. Father Rob will come out and say, and you read his book, right?
He's so humble, my goodness.
He will say, I've got issues, I don't get it right,
And we can't even see them in him at all.
His phrase, we've repeated this to the point of getting sick of it, but he always says, I'm messed up. I need the grace of God. I messed up. I'm going to let my mess become my message. Yeah. All that. Yeah. So sure. All right. But it doesn't matter who you listen to, as long as their aim, as flawed as it might be and not perfect as it might be, is to give us some kind of connection with God. Then do it. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah. And they always say, scripture even talks about, we'll know, and I'm paraphrasing badly, but we know the messenger by their fruits. So if the musician or the preacher or whatever, if they're producing bad fruit, if it seems a bit odd and funny to you, then don't listen. Find something that does help you, and don't be distracted by the person. Be
it's not the
in
person,
love with the message.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Did you know that the gospel writers themselves weren't perfect?
No.
Yeah. I've seen St. Paul admit that he had a thorn in his flesh. I asked God to get rid of this thing. But things like that. St. Peter gets rebuked by Paul for doing it wrong.
Actually, talking about the Gospels, I want to shout out for that Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World episode on the Gospels that he had recently. I've just listened to it, and it's really worth listening to. It's only a few episodes ago, so guys, it's a must listen if you're interested in the origins of the Gospels. And
pretty much every episode of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World is a must listen. But definitely. Yeah.
But I learned so much from that. I mean, I learned so much from him anyway, from other things that he does. But that just a side note.
That man is an encyclopedia. I don't know.
Absolutely amazing.
So many topics. I don't know how he finds the time, to be honest. Yeah.
Absolutely
that's awesome.
Amazing. So gifted.
Yeah. All right, Caroline, let's round out the show with a bit of Mars news, because of something very exciting. The Perseverance mission. I won't spoil it. You go ahead and unload. Go for it.
I'll unload on you. So there were actually three missions that made it to Mars successfully.
Yay.
This month, February.
Good to know.
We had the United Arab Emirates Hope mission,
which was launched by a Japanese rocket.
Possibly, I think.
Yes, I'm trying to get this right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
See, my problem is that my brain doesn't retain everything, but yes. So it made it, and it is now sampling the atmosphere, and it's going to be monitoring weather and all of that. So that's amazing. Yeah. Well done to them for getting there.
Congratulations.
and they took an amazing picture of Mars on approach.
That's on approach, a theological term or no?
As it was approaching before it arrived into the atmosphere, the Chinese Tianwen-1
launched obviously by a Chinese rocket. That's an easy one.
That is the Chinese one. So it made it to the atmosphere of Mars as well, and they've
possibly
put up
a Long March rocket, I think.
Yes, they usually use a Long March rocket. And it was Japanese, the other one. Anyway, just memory came back. So they have made it to the atmosphere of Mars, and they actually put up a really cool video of them going through, like on approach, and not approachal, but approach, and entering the Martian atmosphere.
It's awesome.
They will be orbiting, I was going to say going round and round. It's orbiting the planet.
Essentially what it is, yeah.
Yes. And they'll be looking for a spot to place their lander, so then they can monitor a bit more geology and looking for water and stuff like that.
Did they choose the Utopia Planitia area to land? Yes. And the only reason I say that is because any Star Trek fan knows that the Utopia Planitia shipyards is where they build starships.
And that's what they're going to find when they get there, presumably.
Yeah, until I don't know if it's a spoiler, but Mars, something terrible happens with Mars in Star Trek Picard, but I'll be quiet. Yeah. So no more shipyards. Sorry.
I couldn't finish that series. I'm sorry. Anyway, we won't go into it.
Go on. Yep. Next.
I tried really hard, but I couldn't get through it.
Watch it again, Caroline. Make it so. Come on.
Maybe I'll skip these episodes that were boring. Anyway, so the finale of the trio was the Perseverance mission.
Launched on a ULA rocket.
Yes. And back in July. All of them were pretty much back in July, arriving around the same time. And so it made it. It landed. The rover is there. Perseverance is now on the surface of March. I was going to say March, on the surface of Mars. And yes. So they were monitoring everything from, the release from the heat shield and the separation of the vehicle and the crane, dropping down the rover through the crane system. And
so cool.
They were a bit worried because there were so many things that had to go right. They kept saying pyrotechnic things, like so many off firings of things, and everything went smoothly. There was parachutes, there was jets, little jet engines, there were little, releasing cranes, dropping rovers, and all these things happening. And they have some pretty cool, amazing. Apart from that first photo that we saw, I saw it live. I watched the whole thing. It was just perfect. I woke up and it was on. I was like, yes, I can watch it.
Yes, so I did mention I was listening to it in the on my car radio on the way to work. Yeah, it was very awesome.
That's pretty
too excited.
Cool. I know, you can't let that go.
No way.
I was trying to get the kids ready for school and watch at the same time, so they may have arrived to school just a little
totally
less
forgivable
on time than usual.
Totally forgivable.
Yeah, and that's what Dom said. CEO when we were having a chat in the
in our Slack channel.
Slack channel. So I've been forgiven for that officially. So apart from that first photo, black and white photo from one of it's more of a camera just for guidance on the actual rover. So there was a black and white photo. First they had the screen on, but then later on they showed a photo, the screen off, which was high resolution.
Yes.
Amazing. It was just, rocks on Mars. But
can I just say, unscientifically, there were some great memes that came from that as well. So there's one photo, so it's got that photo of the surface, and there's, that Bernie Sanders sitting on a chair thing. So someone did that. Yeah. There was another one of Elon Musk standing on Mars waving like I already got here. Things like,
where have you been? Like, we'll tell you what.
Yeah, so there's some great ones. Yeah. So
that's good.
They had, Now, can I throw something at you?
Wait,
I don't know if you
need
know
to
about
finish
this.
something.
All right, you go.
Okay, is it what I was going to say? Or
no, it's something different. You go first, then I'll blow your mind with this. Yeah.
Okay, you can blow my mind. But there were two more photos that I wanted to tell you about.
Yep.
That wasn't what you were going to say.
No, it wasn't. No.
Okay.
By the way, people listening, this is how we as brothers and sisters do. They're like, wait, no, I've got one more thing to say first.
Yeah, sorry. We try to be polite to not. But anyway, so there was a photo as they were landing of the wheel of Perseverance, so it was almost touching down on the ground, and the other one of the stage where kind of jetting down the crane stage anyway, where they were slowly taking down the rover to the ground. And so you could see it being held up by cables and stuff. So, it was really cool. I wish you could see it like live.
Well, let's segue this now. Here we go.
Okay,
let's segue.
go for
That's
it.
a great one.
This is for you.
This is your mind-blowing thing, right? Now, you may not... I only found out about this yesterday.
Okay.
As we were hearing about it live. So you may not have heard about this. NASA has a website called NASA's Eyes. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I have heard of it, but I haven't heard of what you're going to tell me.
So what they did, and a colleague at work showed me. So what is it? He's one of our lab technicians, and I say this with affection. He's one of the biggest nerds I've ever met, and he is very excited about this stuff. And we with him and a couple of other colleagues, we geek out about this stuff at work all the time when we should be working. Sorry, but we love all this.
It's okay.
So he shared this website with us. So shout out to him. They actually showed a live simulation of what was happening as it was happening. So you see the separations, the going through the atmosphere, the landing, a whole lot in computer generated like graphics. And you can watch it again. It's right here. So I'll share that in the show notes, the NASA Eyes website.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Like,
that's cool.
Like,
yeah. They were playing like a simulation, so you could imagine it. But imagine if there was like someone actually there so you could see.
Oh, my gosh. Now, they did. One of the orbiting, whatever they are, satellites or whatever, did take a photo of the rover on the surface from the atmosphere. It's like a tiny dot with a circle around it, and I did see that on Twitter.
That's pretty cool in itself.
It's very cool.
That's pretty cool in itself.
And we haven't yet been given this. This will happen. So there is footage coming. There's going to be some awesome footage of the approach.
Can't wait for that.
Who knows what?
And sound. I can't wait for the sounds.
And who knows if there's footage of the sky crane doing its thing from far away, from some like from orbit, for example. If there's
I totally want to see that.
I want to see. I bet the people from NASA want to see it as well.
Yes,
they probably haven't, apart from whatever camera equipment they have on the actual sky cranes. I probably bet they haven't seen it themselves.
I didn't know that they'd have camera on the sky crane itself. That's pretty cool. So they could take photos looking down. That's amazing. But the other thing too, which I thought is cool, is the NASA team that will be checking the rover actually have to get into Mars time. So they're going to be on the sleep cycle of Mars, which is going to be it's going to be a challenge, but they're so dedicated.
Do you know what the length of a day on Mars is? How many hours?
I really should know. I'm going to Google it very quickly. We've still got Google in Australia, thank goodness.
I'll distract the people while you do that. Look over there.
Day.
I bet you there are people who are listening shouting it out right now. Yeah.
1 day and 37 minutes. I guess that's in our Earth time. So a little bit longer than Earth time.
Yeah, is it relatively similar or is it?
Relatively similar. I think they did say, 24 hours, 39 minutes. They did say that their work day is going to be a little longer. So that's going to happen. Yeah, but they've got to get into, a different rotation, I guess. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, they did say that over the weekend, I'm assuming it's this weekend, that they'll be getting more images.
Yes. We're going to get flooded with some awesome stuff.
We are. Yeah. And the images that we've got so far are not from the fancy color cameras.
That's right.
They're just the low data images. So now
the
they're
ones
going
that
to
can get sent quickly.
That's
because my understanding is the rover sends its data to the orbiter, and the orbiter beams it to Earth. So we're getting Mars's internet at the moment, the space internet.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So there's a few going around Mars at the moment. I hope that obviously they'd be on different trajectories, but yes, different orbits.
Speaking of space internet, did you see that we can apply for Starlink? So Elon Musk's Starlink internet now here in Australia.
Yeah, our brother put that on our chat, didn't he?
Yeah.
I didn't look into it.
I'd have to sell my house
further
to get it, but we can do it.
Is it very expensive? Is it?
Oh, super expensive. Yeah, there's the equipment, there's the connection.
I thought it was supposed to be like a affordable way for people to get internet.
I think as more people, like once you get, economies of scale, once you get lots and lots of customers, I think it will get much cheaper because this is the initial, and it's also not, it's not always going to be reliable to start with.
True.
Because they have just over 1,000 satellites.
So you have to pay a lot of money for unreliable service. That's good.
Yeah. But there are people here who want to say, like, I signed up first.
True.
But this will, they'll eventually have 10,000 plus satellites, over the next couple of years.
Yeah, because he's still got a few to send up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Now,
then it will be super reliable and probably a lot cheaper by then because I think lots of people will buy in Yeah, and
I mean,
we'll
it's
have
a good
little Starlink
idea, but
satellites.
from an astronomy point of view, I'm not really too happy
a lot of
about
people
it.
are cranky. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, because it's already crowded up there with satellites and junk and whatever. Poor Earth.
And aliens and everything else that are spying on us that we can't see.
Yeah, that's why I put my tinfoil hat on when we're doing these podcasts.
Humans from the future who are just looking at seeing how we survived this era.
That's right. Yeah,
they want to see how we survived the pandemic, and so we can't see them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gosh,
I've seen Star Trek. I know how it works.
Yeah, of course you do. You've seen in the future. Anyway.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's wrap it up. We're only a little bit over time this time, so we actually...
I want to point out something too. This is our 50th episode.
It is. Yay.
So yay. Congratulations to us.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you guys for hanging in there.
Half century in cricket terms. Yeah. Thanks
it.
for continuing to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, people listening, you're the reason we do this. If we don't have you, then what's the point of being here?
We'd just be in our lounge room with a cup of tea.
Yeah. Although, I mean, it's also an excuse for you and I to catch up. So there's that too.
So thanks.
And record it and share it with the people. So
that's right. You all get to listen to what we talk about between ourselves.
Yeah. So 50 episodes. That's awesome. Yeah. And I guess we should say thank you to Dom and to SQPN for having a bit of faith in us and having us on the network too. We're so happy to be hosted with the SQPN family, and we've met some wonderful people because of it. We're still excited about it,
aren't we?
We are. Yeah. 3 years down the road. It's our third year, and we're loving it.
It's still like wow for us. Yeah.
It really is. All right, let's finish up there. So we want to thank you so much for joining us for episode 50, our half-century episode. So for all the cricket fans of Catholics of Oz. Before we go, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Catholics of Oz. And today we would love to thank, on our half-century episode, Meg P, Matt and Erica Z, Harrison B, Dennis C, and George H. And also, we should remember that now is a great time to become a StarQuest patron. Thanks to the generous gift from a StarQuest supporter, when you start a new Patreon monthly pledge at sqpn.com/give, the first 3 months will be matched by an equal amount from our donor. So if you become a new patron at $10 a month, after 3 months, our donor will give $30 to StarQuest to support all of our shows, including this one. So this will make your gift go even further. If you've been thinking about joining our patrons, like the ones I just mentioned above, now is a great time. You can visit and join them at sqpn.com/give today. So thank you very much. We'd also like to know your thoughts about today's episode. So we've talked about Lent, we've talked about Catholic schools, we've talked about Mars and a couple of other things. So let us know what you think. You can visit us at sqpn.com/Oz and leave your thoughts there. Spelled OZ, I should mention. You can visit the SQPN Facebook page or Twitter, and you can leave your thoughts at one of those. The Facebook page is facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. And also, don't forget, we have a Facebook page of our own for Catholics of Oz at facebook.com/Catholics of Oz. You can join us and discuss our latest episodes there. Caroline, before I thank you, Caroline, I should mention we also have an email address, which is, lockdown. So we're lockdown brain still.
Lockdown brain, yes.
Our email address is catholicsofOz@sqpn.com. Caroline, it was awesome to catch up with you. Maybe we'll have Lena. I can't promise the people anymore that we'll have the three of us. It will happen at some point.
Let's see who's going to be on the next episode. Yeah,
it's going to be a mystery. They're probably going to be sitting there after this episode going, I wonder who's going to be on the show next.
Yeah, I bet.
So, Caroline, thanks so much. It was great to chat with you on the show today.
Thank you. It was fun, as always.
And once again, I'm Lindsay Sant. Thank you so much for listening to the Catholics of Oz on StarQuest.